Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to IP addressing part 2. So in last video we have discussed about the IP addressing part 1 where the basic IP addressing concept was there. In this we'll talk about the advanced topic in the IP addressing part itself. So starting with the very first thing is about the octet format. Okay. So let us try and understand what exactly these octet formats are. So as we discussed, like for class A, B and C, you have some specific reserved IP addresses range. Similarly, these octet formats are also defined. There is two things we need to remember. It is basically divided into two parts. One is your host portion, another one is network portion. Host portion is equal to 0, network portion is equal to 1. In the sense, network portion we cannot change, it is always 1 on bits. Host portions are 0, which we can change based on our requirement. Okay, so in class A, B and C there are some network portions which is reserved, there are some host portions which can be changed. Let us try and understand. So as we discussed, network and host portion. For class A there is one network portion and rest of all host portions are there. In the sense, dot is equal to, here n is equal to 8 ones, 8 ones will be there. Host is equal to 8 zeros, this is equal to 8 zeros, this is equal to 8 zeros, right? So 8 ones, 8 zeros, 8 zeros, 8 zeros, 24 zeros plus 8 ones, 32 bits, right? So where this cannot be changed, but this can be changed based on our requirement. Similarly for class B, 2 network bits are reserved. In the sense, 16 network bits are reserved, 16 host bits are empty. 24 network bits are reserved, only one host portion is host here, where it can be changed. So this is very important to remember. Now next comes, how will you be able to calculate the total number of IP addresses in class A, class B and class C. As we discussed, like total IP addresses is of 32 bits of address, and if you want to calculate the total number of IP addresses, 2 power h, h is equal to number of host bit. So it's all about 2 power 32 you can consider, which is going to be around 4.3 billions of IP addresses here. Fine. But when it comes to different classes, how many IP addresses will be there? Let us try and understand. Fine. So I will tell you how to calculate the total number of IP addresses in one class and total number of network also, both. For class A, C. So the very first point to remember is this. To calculate the total number of IP addresses, to calculate total number of IP addresses and then to calculate total number of networks, you have some formula. It's all about 2 power h minus priority bit, 2 power h minus priority bit, and then minus 2 is equal to number of IPs. Fine. This h is equal to host bit, h is equal to host. When it comes to network, it is all about 2 power n, 2 power n. Okay, sorry guys, I am taking my word back. This is my bad, it is not at all, it is not at all a correct option, sorry. To calculate number of IP addresses and to calculate number of network, this is the formula, sorry. 2 power h minus 2, 2 power h minus 2 is going to be your total number of IP addresses, and 2 power n minus priority bit, 2 power n minus priority bit is equal to your total number of networks. This is the formula. Okay, so let us move ahead and calculate the same thing here. So for class A, see, in class A the octet format was network and then host, means total network bits are 8 and total host bits are. Now to calculate the number of network here, 2 power n minus priority bit. See, 2 power n is equal to 8, right? Minus priority bit. Priority bit for class A is equal to 1. That's what? 2 power 8 minus 1, 2 power 7. Total 128. And then again we are doing minus 2. See, in class A, the very first IP address 0.0.0.0 you cannot assign to any computer, and the very last IP address 127.0.0.0 range also is reserved for some specific operations. It is basically reserved for your TCP IP operation testing, loopback address. So these two addresses cannot be used. That's the main reason we are doing minus 2 here, minus 2 here. Minus 2 is for 0 and 127 range. Means total 128 networks are there, but we cannot use these two networks like 000 and 127.0.0.0. So total usable network will be 126. It is all about between 1 and 126 your usable networks are there. Fine. Always remember, this kind of reservation is only there in the class A. In class B, class C, you do not have any reservation. Let's move ahead. On next, number of hosts. So 2 power h minus 2, remember? So 2 power h is equal to your 24 here. So 2 power 24 minus 2, and this is 24 value, and then minus 2. You are getting 16777214 host per network. Means number of networks, number of hosts will be there, in the sense valid IP addresses. You might be thinking, why this minus 2? Is all about, for each and every network range, the first IP address and the last IP address cannot be used. The first IP address and the last IP addresses cannot be used, because the first IP address is reserved for network ID and the last IP address is reserved for broadcast ID. That's the main reason. I will tell you how you can go ahead and calculate the network and broadcast ID for each classes. So as of now, remember, in class A, if you want to calculate the total number of network is this, and total number of IP addresses is this. Coming to class B, see this. In class B, then the octet format is network, then host. Means 16 network bits and 16 host bit. So to calculate the number of network, again 2 power n minus priority bit. N is equal to 16 minus priority bit is 2. For class B, priority bit is 2. So total this many networks. And how many IP addresses? Again 2 power h minus 2. So 2 power h minus in base 2, because it's network ID and broadcast ID. So 2 power h minus 2 is equal to this one. Total 65,536 IP addresses minus 2, it is 34. So this is what in class B. This total number of hosts is equal to this many computers you can keep into the single network. In class B, around 65,000. In class A, around 16 millions of IP addresses. In the sense, 16 millions of devices you can keep in one network. Now, coming to next we have class C. Make sure in class C, again it's going to be the same as your octet value and then this. So 2 power 24 and then 2 power 8 you will have to put up. See, 2 power 24 minus priority bit is 3. So it is 21. 2 power 21 is this. This many network you will get into the class C, and total number of IP addresses is equal to 2 power 8 minus 2, and it is total 256. Valid is this 2 power 8, 254. Why this minus 2? Minus 2 because of your network and broadcast ID. So make sure the network and broadcast ID will be excluded from each and every IP address ranges. Fine. Now, what is this network and broadcast ID? Try to understand. Read this. Any IP address with all zeros in the host portion is called as network ID. And what is broadcast? Any IP address range with all bits as 1 in the host portion is considered as broadcast. For example, if it is class A, this is octet format: network, host, host. So if all bits are zeros here, that will be considered as network ID. If all bits are 1 here, it is considered as host portion, network portion. And always remember, the IP addresses, read this, the IP addresses lies between network address and broadcast addresses or valid IP addresses. And only valid IP addresses can be assigned to the PCs or the computers or the networking devices. You cannot assign network ID and broadcast IDs to the devices. Okay, simple. Now next we need to understand the subnet, mask and octet format ranges. For example, as I said, for class A, octet format is this, and we are taking one example for class A IP address 10 dot range, and it is network and this is host. Okay, so network, host. One network and all zeros, network address, and see the last one, this 10 is still same, but rest of all has been converted to all ones, correct now? So it is your broadcast, and the addresses between this is considered as your valid IP addresses. Fine. Similarly for class B, we are taking one example for one of the network here, where this is network, it will be always same, but host will change. This is your network ID, and in this complete once it is broadcast. In between your valid IP addresses are there. Similarly for class C, this is network, cannot be changed, but this is host which can be changed. So one is your network address because all zeros in the host portion, and when you make all ones in the host portion, it is broadcast ID. In between it is going to be your valid IP addresses. Fine. Next comes subnet mask. Guys, as we discussed for every classes, like for class A, class B and class C, for this network portion, then host. For this network portion, host portion. This is network and host. For network portion, if you put up all ones, let's say 1 like this, if you put up 8 ones, and when you calculate the value, you will get to 55, and then dot, go for this and put up 8 zeros will be there, then dot, again 8 zeros will be there, then dot, again 8 zeros will be there. So this 0 0 is equal to 0.